Good afternoon. Thank you so much for coming.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. This is going to be a very, very fun afternoon. And on behalf of the board and our staff, I want to thank you for being here. We've got 4 of the top people in the state in real estate who are going to talk to you and answer your questions. My name is Charles Roberts. I'm a board director here. Also head the professional development committee, and it's my privilege to be able to get this show on the road. So before we get started, I want to thank very much our wonderful sponsor today, who's going to talk to you for a couple of minutes. It's Doug Anderson from North American Title. Everybody, yay to Doug. Great stuff.
The forced applause.
I'm Doug Anderson with North American Title, and I'm very, very happy to be here, and you guys all must be too, because you're missing the Rockies game, you're missing the beginning of the World Cup, right? Okay. One of the cool things I think that we do for the community is that as realtors, as lenders, as title companies, as home builders, you go on down the list, we help our community, we help people, and I think that's what makes this association great, because we keep on learning more and more about how to do better what we do and how to do things correctly. And that's why I look for the things to sponsor that are the most educational for our members, and I love being a member of this association. So I know you have a choice in title companies. I know there's a lot of them out there. I hope that you would consider, as I come knocking on your doors, to give me a little time to be able to talk to your staffs and talk to your brokers. Got some fresh fruit back in the back for you. Hope you enjoy it, and I'm excited to listen to our speakers as well. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much. Yay. Has Courtney made it yet?
Right here.
Okay, Courtney's here. Okay, great. So I'm going to introduce Courtney in just a second. So basically, guys, this is your time. These are really, really top people. Don't be polite. I'm sure they want your hardest questions. They're going to give you great answers. And we're also filming this, so we will have clips of this available hopefully in the next couple of days on the DMAR website. So sit back, enjoy. And we are going to start for 15 minutes with Courtney Levingston, who's a senior city planner, planning, design, and construction with the city and county of Denver. Thanks very much. And if you could just clip this on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're going to video. Just, I won't touch it. But
Oh,
yeah, exactly.
Too much
And then
stuff.
if you have any questions, just repeat the question.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Let's see here. I don't think I want to restart this now.
Yeah. Maybe
Not
just
now.
say, yeah, that should be
Postpone?
good. Let's see what happens.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me and taking the time to listen to some interesting regulations that I think will impact you, maybe not now, but maybe in the future with the future home that you are selling. So my name is Courtney Levingston. I am a senior city planner with the city and county of Denver. Before that, I worked for the city of Fort Collins in the same position for about 6 years. And I just recently took this role, and this is actually with the Parks and Recreation Department. The parkways are governed by Parks and Rec, not by planning. And today we're here to talk about the parkways. And why should you, as real estate agents, care about parkways? They can greatly impact your clients. And the genesis of me coming here today was actually I had a very sad situation happen where someone called me up and parkway regulations impacted their property to the extent where they could not end up building on their property what they wanted to build. And they said, well, my real estate agent never told me this. This didn't show up in a title search. Why didn't this happen? And it was really sad because she was crying on the phone. And these are people's lives that are really impacted. And while there is onus on the person purchasing the property to some respect, it doesn't, I guess, change the fact that I feel empathy and I understand, and there's only so much I can do, but at the same time, maybe if there's something that could have been done earlier in the process, some educational aspects, that could have been prevented. So what you're going to find out today is that you can find out, I'll give you resources of where to find out if your client that a home that your client is looking at is impacted by parkway regulations, and what those regulations are that impact the property. So let's start out with Denver's parkway system. It's 34 designated parkways and boulevards. Probably the most iconic, Monaco Parkway. I don't know if anyone has driven down Monaco lately. It's beautiful this time of year with all the tree canopy. Bonnie Bray, just what the intent was to connect the city's parks to each other. Our forefathers, the designers of the city of Denver, had this grand idea where we're going to have two big parks. It's City Park and Wash Park. And we're going to connect those by parkways and boulevards. So it's a park-like setting inside of the urban environment. There's over 60 miles of connecting parkways. They're also protected by the city's landmark preservation, and they're on the National Register of Historic Places. So you think of like 6th Avenue Parkway, all the historic homes on 6th Avenue. So Denver used to be a high plains desert. When the first settlers came to Denver, it kind of looked like this. There weren't any trees. It was icky. You wouldn't want to live here. The Parkway system was proposed in 1894, providing relief from urban ills. So to clean the air, to beautify the city, to really make this, the idea was to make this the Paris of the West. And that was why we have, if you've ever been to Paris and seen all the trees and the boulevards, that's what their intent was behind how the city is laid out. And it weaved the parks, public civic spaces, neighborhoods, schools. Mayor Robert Speer was really the catalyst behind the Parkway system, and he got that fast-tracked. And what he did is he had an annual tree giveaway where the city had hundreds and hundreds of trees, and he would give a tree to anybody who would plant it in a row on their property. Free trees for everyone. They're usually cottonwoods, but you know. So they're also, parkways are infrastructure, like sewers and roads. Parks and park systems are cities' infrastructure, and people really need to take that into account. So these are some of Denver's designated parkways. Has anyone sold a property recently on one of these streets? Did you guys know that there were parkway regulations that impact the private property? Well, there are. So this is just a kind of a down and dirty list. So showing the parkway, this is the whole parkway. So you have the public, which is right here, but also the private property. So the parkway setback starts at the property line and goes in. It usually spans between 12 and 35 feet in on the private property. And there's regulations on what they can and cannot build. So if someone loves this house and they're like, I'd really like to put a fountain out front. I'd really like to have a bigger porch. This porch isn't big enough for me and my family. I'd really like a fence because we have a dog. They can't build those without talking to us. Like for fences, for instance, they have to be 4 feet in height, 75% translucent if it's on a designated parkway. So these are important things for you to know to kind of help guide your home buyer. So within the parkway setbacks on the private property, homeowners are not allowed to construct balconies, garages, sheds, gazebos, porches, patios, terraces, pergolas, fountains, decks, AC units that encroach in that parkway setback, trellises, archways, additional parking, shade structures, etc. So you have to remember that if someone has like a 50-foot lawn, and depending on the parkway setback varies, that's only in the first 35 feet, depending on the regulations. So it varies per parkway. So you really have to know how to look up and find that information and say, okay, well, within the first 20 feet, you can't build X, Y, and Z, but you have still 10 feet left over, so you can build your patio in this area. Just be mindful of that when they're purchasing the home and have them keep that in mind. This is fences again. So when we talk about fences that are 75% translucent, it's usually wrought iron. The intent behind that is visual continuity of the parkway to not, can you imagine on, I don't know, I'm trying to think of iconic, Bonnie Bray Boulevard, if 4 feet from the property line, there were 6-foot solid wood fences. Can you imagine how that would look and how that would impact the experience when driving down Bonnie Bray? It would feel like a tunnel. It wouldn't feel like a park. It wouldn't feel open. So that's the whole kind of intent behind the regulations, because the parkways are for everybody and for all the users and citizens. So how can you find out if, I had that list of the different parkways, how can you find out if the property that you're looking at, what those regulations and what those setbacks are? This is the website, and I'm sorry that there's not a smaller URL for that. I am not a website designer for the city of Denver, no idea. But that's what it is. There's other ways, like if you click in, go on the city of Denver, and you go to the GIS develop, there's easier ways to get to it, but this was the easiest way I could show you right here. This will show you what the specific Parkway setbacks are, and if there actually are setbacks. Colorado Boulevard and Federal are actually boulevards in some segments have setbacks, which is really surprising to me. When I started this position, I was like, Colorado Boulevard, that's not an iconic parkway in my mind. I'm thinking of the Target. But they do have, in some segments, some setbacks, and you'll be able to find out what those are. So for instance, East Alameda Avenue from Steele to Colorado Boulevard has a 20-foot parkway setback, where Hale Parkway from 12th to Colorado at 8th Avenue has a 15-foot setback on both sides. So they vary depending on what segment of the parkway we're talking about. So what you do is you go to that website, you type in the property address right there, you scroll down, and then there will be parkways right there. You click on it. So you can see right here, that's the property. I typed in 780 Bonnie Bray Boulevard. And then you'll get a pop-up window, and it'll tell you that Bonnie Bray Boulevard has a 20-foot setback on both sides. And it starts from the property line, so not the curb, not the sidewalk, but the property line going in. So the first 20 feet, can't build a patio, can't expand the patio. There is an exception process, so there's a due process that they're in place. And if someone's like, well, I really love this property, but I really want to build a patio, and you're like, well, it's in the proper parkway setback, there is a mechanism and a process which they can go through to apply for an exception. That's not saying that they'll be granted. I've seen less than 10% of these exception requests granted since I've been with the city. So it really has to be an exceptional situation. They need to provide this information. There's also a narrative portion, and I have the building line restrictions policy on the website. If this is actually applicable and someone wants to apply for an exception, you can contact me and I can get you the actual policy legalese. And then if an exception is granted, then the property owner has to post a sign in their property for 30 days, send out notification letters saying that they're going to build in the parkway setback, has to go to the city council member, has to go to registered neighborhood organizations, and neighbors within 200 feet. And the sign has to be posted. So there is quite the process, public notification required. That's just an example of one of the signs. So just to kind of recap, and I try to go through that pretty quickly because I know regulations can kind of be boring, and get to any questions you guys may have. What a designated parkway is, why they're important, parkway regulations that potentially impact home buyers, and then how to figure out if your home or client is interested in if a home your client is interested in is on a designated parkway. So this is my contact information. If you have any questions with the resources, having problems figuring it out, you know that your client's looking at a parkway but you're just not sure how to use it, give me a call or email me. That's my information. I will be available until Thanksgiving. I'll be on maternity leave from Thanksgiving until about Valentine's Day. So call me before Thanksgiving. That's it. Happy to take any questions you have. Yes, ma'am?
I'm just curious, the area going on East Alameda where Dunker Trees is, where all that stuff intersects.
Where what is? I'm sorry.
Dunker Trees is.
Oh, yeah.
So if you go all the way down Alameda on the north side of the street, all those fences are at least 6 feet. There's people that have garages, and they're not 20-foot setbacks with see-through fences. Is this a new regulation?
The parkway regulations have been in place in some respect or another since 1981, and they started being enforcing. Yeah, so it kind of has been around for a while, but there's difficulties enforcing it retroactively. And then also with Alameda Parkway, some of it is on Glendale. So then you have issues with continuity on one side. And so I look at the integrity of that segment. And so with exceptions too, if there's really no integrity left to that parkway where it doesn't even act, look, or feel like a parkway anymore, there's better, I guess, better probability we grant an exception in that respect. But some of them have been, it's kind of the genesis of the problem. I think people in the 80s saw these fences going up on parkways and was like, whoa. And the city council and our leadership did something about it, the mayor. Okay. Yes, sir?
If you want an exception, do you go before a board, or is it up to you who makes that decision?
The exception, what I do is I analyze the request and I make a recommendation to the Parks and Recreation manager. Under the City of Denver Charter, the manager has a lot of authority, which is different from a lot of communities around the Denver metro area. So it would be one of those things where the Parks and Recreation manager has the authority and it doesn't go in front of a board. Yep. Yes, sir?
And this is kind of a side point about putting up a for sale sign on the sidewalk and the curb. What's the thought on that?
There are sign setbacks along the, so did everyone hear that question? I'm just trying to make sure about, oh, I'm sorry. The question was about for sale signs on a parkway on a parkway setback. There are sign setbacks within the parkway, and that's usually about 5 feet from the property line in, so it would have to be 5 feet in. So it's just good to check to make sure, see what those regulations are and where's a good place to put that sign. Yes, sir?
About how often does the director rule differently than your recommendation? Ever?
Yes. It does happen, yes.
But not very frequently.
I haven't really looked up that statistic of what my batting average is per se, but it does happen. Yes, ma'am?
I've noticed that some of these designated parkways are very small portions of the street indicated.
Yeah.
I live on Claremont Street in Park Hill.
Yeah.
It's not a parkway on
Yeah.
Claremont Street in Park Hill.
Well, it could be a portion, so you have to look it up. So you would go to the Developed Denver, and
It's not.
right, it's not, but it's small portions. Yes, there's different segments that are designated, not the whole entire street. But it's good if someone is interested in a house on Claremont and there is a section that is designated, go to the resource and just double check to make sure that that house is not within the segment that is designated. Yes, ma'am?
Courtney, if a buyer goes to your website, puts in the address, and discovers that they're fine,
Yeah.
their property is not impacted or what they want to do is permissible, will you provide a written confirmation if they email you and say, this is what I see, is this accurate?
Yeah.
Does your office provide a written confirmation?
Typically we don't, but if they email me and they said, make sure I'm understanding this correctly. Oh, I'm sorry. The question was, if someone uses our online resources and looks to see if their home that they're looking at buying is in a potential parkway setback, they don't think it is based on what they looked up, does Parks and Rec issue a confirmation of that? Right now, we don't have a process in place to do so. However, if you email me and say, this is what I'm seeing, can you confirm that this is correct? I'll say, I'll look it up and I'll be like, yep, doesn't look like you're in a parkway, you're good. Or, no, it looks like you are. So I can do that, I can provide that service, it's not a problem. It's a quick email for me.
Thank you.
Yep. Is that it? Okay.
Again.